Captain Elias Ward had fought in many battles, but nothing prepared him for the message that arrived on his ship that morning. The seal was unmistakable, a glowing emblem of the Sarathi court. The Sarathi were not like humans. They were taller, their skin carried a faint metallic sheen, and their culture was built on honor and ritual. When their court summoned someone, it was never for a small reason. Elias stood in the command chamber of his vessel as the message unfolded in a hologram before him. A stern voice echoed, heavy with authority. "Captain Elias Ward of Earth, the court of Sarathi summons you. By decree of the crown, you are ordered to appear before us. Your presence is demanded for a sacred duty. Refusal is not permitted." The soldiers around him exchanged uneasy glances. Elias was respected by his crew, but everyone knew that being called by the Sarathi court could mean exile, punishment, or worse. Elias did not let his doubt show. He simply nodded and gave the order to set course for Sarath Prime, the shining homeworld of the alien court. The journey was short, but Elias spent the hours in thought. Humanity and the Sarathi had fought side by side in a recent war against raiders from the Outer Rim. Elias had led human troops in the defense of Sarathi colonies. He had saved lives, but he had also made enemies among their nobility. Some Sarathi lords admired human courage, while others called humans reckless, unworthy of respect. Now he was about to walk into their chamber alone, surrounded by those who judged every step he took. When his ship descended into the vast capital city of Sarath Prime, Elias saw towers of crystal and steel, glimmering like blades in the sun. The landing platform was lined with Sarathi guards, their armor polished, their long weapons held upright. As he stepped off the ramp, a deep silence fell. All eyes were on the human soldier. He was led into the great court hall. It stretched endlessly, with banners of gold and crimson hanging from the high ceiling. Rows of nobles filled the sides, their gazes sharp and unreadable. At the center stood the throne of the Sarathi crown. Upon it sat Queen Saralith, her form regal, her eyes cold but curious. Around her stood the royal daughters and other newly adult females of noble blood. Their presence confused Elias, for this was not a normal court gathering. A herald announced him. Captain Elias Ward of Earth, decorated soldier, savior of Sarathi lives in the War of the Rim, bearer of scars and honor. Elias bowed as custom demanded. "Your Majesty, I come as summoned. I await your command." The Queen rose. Her voice rang across the hall. "Captain Ward, you are called here not for trial but for duty. Our traditions demand that when our daughters come of age, they must bond with warriors proven in battle. The bond is sacred. It is not a matter of choice but of survival. Through it, wisdom is passed, courage is shared, and the next generation of our kind is shaped." Elias felt a wave of unease wash over him. He had heard whispers of Sarathi bonding, but no human had ever been chosen for it. Before he could speak, the Queen continued. "Our warriors have failed the trials. None proved worthy. The omens show only one path. You, the human who fought beside us, who shed blood for us, must take this role. You must bond with our newly adult daughters." The hall erupted in murmurs. Some nobles shouted in outrage. "Impossible. A human cannot hold such honor." Others whispered with curiosity, wondering if this was fate. Elias straightened. "Your Majesty, I am honored, but I do not understand. What does this bond demand of me?" An elder noble stepped forward. "The bond is not marriage. It is not ownership. It is an oath of guidance and protection. The chosen warrior shares his strength with the bonded ones. In return, they share vision, intuition, and the power of the Sarathi spirit. Together they form a circle that cannot be broken." Elias thought carefully. This was more than politics. It was a binding ritual, something spiritual to the Sarathi. If he refused, it could be seen as an insult, perhaps even a declaration of disrespect to their entire people. Yet if he accepted, he would step into a role he barely understood, with lives tied to his own. The Queen's eldest daughter, Princess Kalith, stepped forward. She was tall, her armor ceremonial but elegant, her eyes sharp with fire. "If the human refuses, our future collapses. The bond is demanded by tradition. Without it, the court weakens and our enemies rise. He must accept, or he must face the shame of breaking our way." The weight of every gaze pressed upon Elias. His human instincts told him to question, to resist, but his soldier's duty reminded him of the alliance that had saved lives on both sides. He could not let arrogance destroy the fragile peace. Elias bowed his head slightly. "If this bond is sacred, then I will honor it. But know this, I do not come as master or as pawn. I come as a soldier who stands beside those who need strength. If I bond, it will be in trust, not in chains." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she lifted her hand and the hall fell silent. "So be it. The human has accepted. The bond shall be prepared." At once the daughters of the court, all newly of age, stepped closer. Some looked at Elias with pride, others with doubt, and one with quiet fear. They circled him, their presence heavy with expectation. A strange hum filled the hall as the bond ritual began. Elias felt warmth spreading across his chest, as if invisible threads were weaving between him and the Scifi females. His breath caught when sudden flashes of emotion brushed against his mind. He felt Calith's fierce pride, another's suspicion, another's nervous hope. It was overwhelming, a flood of foreign feelings pressing against his own. The nobles watched in silence, some angry, others astonished. For a human to share the bond was unheard of, yet the ritual did not break. The threads held stronger with each passing moment. Finally, the queen's voice cut through the air. "It is done. The human soldier is now bonded to our daughters. His fate is bound to theirs. Their fate is bound to his. Let none break this circle, for it is now the will of the crown." Elias stood tall, though his mind swirled with confusion. He had come expecting orders or accusations, but he left the throne hall carrying something far heavier. His life was no longer his own. The bond had tied him to the future of an alien court. As the ceremony ended, Calith met his gaze directly. Her words were sharp, but not without a trace of respect. "You carry us now, human? Fail, and we all fall. Stand strong, and the Scifi will never forget your name." Elias did not answer with words. He only gave a firm nod, a soldier's promise that no matter the weight, he would bear it. Yet deep inside, he wondered what storms this bond would bring, and whether he had stepped into destiny or into a trap he could never escape. The next morning, Captain Elias Ward awoke in the guest quarters of the Scifi palace. He was still trying to process the events of the previous day. The bond he had entered was real and tangible. When he closed his eyes, he could feel faint pulses from the newly adult Scifi daughters who were now tied to him through the sacred ritual. Each pulse carried an emotion, a fragment of thought, and it was stronger than anything he had ever experienced with humans. The room was large and simple, yet elegant. Walls shimmered with embedded crystals that shifted color as the light touched them. Elias dressed quickly in his uniform, a practical outfit that reminded him of Earth, though it made him stand out among the Scifi. He had been warned that today would be the first of many tests, and the thought made his chest tighten. A soft knock announced the arrival of Calith, the eldest daughter. She entered with measured steps, her armor reflecting the morning light. She looked at Elias with an expression that was difficult to read. Pride, curiosity, and a hint of challenge blended together in her gaze. "The council expects you to guide us now," Calith said. Her voice carried authority, but it was not unkind. "The bond is not complete until it is tested. You will teach, protect, and learn with us. That is the trial of trust." Elias nodded. "I understand. I do not know your ways yet, but I will stand with you. I will teach you what I know and learn what you need." Calith studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then we begin. You must see the world as we do before we can trust you fully. Come with me." They left the palace through wide corridors and entered the training grounds. The area was massive, a mixture of natural terrain and engineered platforms for combat practice. Other Scifi daughters were already present. They moved with grace and precision, testing their strength, speed, and coordination. Some of them looked at Elias with open curiosity, others with suspicion, and a few with barely concealed challenge. Elias felt the bond shift. The emotions and thoughts of the daughters brushed against him. Fear, determination, pride, and doubt intertwined. He realized he could sense more than feelings. Small movements, intentions, even subtle plans could be glimpsed through the bond. It was like reading multiple minds at once, but without words. Calith gestured for Elias to join the practice. "We will begin with drills," she said. "This is not combat against enemies. It is combat against ourselves. Control, balance, and awareness are the foundation of everything." Elias nodded and stepped forward. He observed the daughters' movements carefully. They were fast, precise, and elegant. Their bodies moved like living machines trained for centuries. He remembered his own training with humans and realized he needed to adjust his methods. The daughters had strength and reflexes far beyond ordinary humans. He began demonstrating basic human techniques: footwork, balance, and timing. At first, the daughters moved cautiously, mirroring him with careful attention. Some of them, like Kalith, were quick learners, their movements blending human methods with their own natural agility. Others struggled, their pride clashing with unfamiliar techniques. Elias felt their frustration and offered gentle corrections. "Do not fight yourselves," he said. "Use your strength, trust your instincts. The bond connects us. I feel your hesitation. Let it guide you, not hold you back." The daughters hesitated, but gradually their confidence grew. Elias noticed small smiles, small nods of acknowledgement through the bond. It was a silent conversation, but it carried understanding. Each movement improved. Each step brought trust closer. After hours of training, Kalith called a pause. She led Elias to a higher platform overlooking a simulated battlefield. "This is the next test," she said. "You must show that you can protect us in ways beyond skill. Strategy, awareness, and unity will determine if the bond holds. If you fail, the bond weakens and our people lose faith." Elias studied the terrain. Mechanical drones began to emerge, programmed to simulate enemy attacks. They moved with speed and coordination, striking unpredictably. The daughters readied themselves, their focus intense. Through the bond, Elias could sense their tension. He drew a deep breath. "Trust in the bond," he told them. "We are connected. Move together, observe each other's strengths. Cover weaknesses. This is not just defense, it is cooperation." The drones attacked and chaos spread across the training ground. Elias moved first, intercepting a drone aimed at one of the younger daughters. The bond flared, and he felt her fear as if it were his own. His reflexes sharpened, and he pushed forward to shield her. Another drone approached Kalith. Through the bond, Elias anticipated its path before it struck. He shouted instructions, and Kalith moved just in time to deflect it. Other daughters followed suit, adapting quickly to Elias's style. The bond allowed them to anticipate each other's moves in ways they never experienced. It was not magic, but connection, training, and trust. Each successful move strengthened the bond, and Elias felt it grow. After the exercise, the daughters were breathing heavily but smiling. Elias allowed himself a small smile, too. Kalith approached him. "You understand more than I expected," she said. "The bond is not just protection. It is understanding, cooperation, and respect. You are learning as much as we are. That is what makes a warrior worthy of the circle." Elias felt a warmth of relief. The trial had been difficult, but it was not impossible. He realized the bond was not a burden alone. It was a shared strength, a way to multiply their potential. As the day progressed, they moved to other tests. Observation drills, communication exercises, and strategy puzzles. The daughters learned human techniques while Elias learned Sarathi intuition. Through each test, the bond pulsed with emotion, signaling progress or hesitation. He sensed when one of the daughters doubted herself and offered guidance. When another grew overconfident, he tempered her with encouragement and caution. By evening, Elias and the daughters were exhausted but triumphant. They had learned to anticipate one another, to move as one unit. Elias realized that the trial of trust was not about skill alone, but about respect and understanding. He had gained their respect, and they had accepted him as a guide, not a commander. Yet not everything was smooth. A few nobles observing from the gallery whispered among themselves. Some were still angry that a human had been chosen. Some believed the bond should not work. Elias felt their judgment through the bond. The daughters shared that tension with him. It was a reminder that the trial of trust extended beyond the training grounds and into the hearts of the court itself. Kalith addressed him finally. "You have passed the first part of the trial, Captain. We trust you to lead, and the bond grows stronger. But be warned. The court is not united. There are those who wish to see us fail. The bond will be tested in ways beyond these exercises." Elias nodded. He understood. The trial of trust was only beginning. Bonds were not just about strength or skill. They were about loyalty, courage, and the ability to face challenges together. The daughters had accepted him, but the court and the world beyond the palace would not be so forgiving. That night, as Elias returned to his quarters, he reflected on the day. The bond was powerful. It connected them in ways that transcended language or species. He could feel their hearts and minds, their hopes and fears. And he knew that the real trial would come not in drills or exercises, but in the challenges that awaited beyond the palace walls. Elias looked out at the glowing towers of Sarath Prime. A sense of purpose filled him. He was no longer just a human soldier. He was a protector, a guide, and a partner in a bond that could change the course of the Sarathi future. Whatever trials awaited, he would face them. For the daughters, for the court, and for the fragile alliance between humans and Sarathi, he would stand strong. The morning sun cast long shadows across Sarath Prime, illuminating the crystal towers of the capital city. Captain Elias Ward walked through the palace corridors, accompanied by Caliph and the other daughters. The bond between them pulsed steadily, a rhythm of trust and shared strength. Yet beneath the calm surface of the palace, tension brewed. The court was not unified in its acceptance of Elias. While some nobles admired the human soldier for his courage and skill, others whispered darkly in secret chambers. They viewed the bond as an insult to tradition. The idea that an outsider could guide the daughters of the royal house was intolerable to their pride. Whispers of rebellion were already forming, carried on subtle glances and quiet conversations. Elias could feel it through the bond. A flicker of unease passed through one of the daughters, and he knew that her fear was more than personal. It was tied to the wider tensions of the court. "Something stirs among the nobles," he said quietly to Caliph. "I can feel it. Their whispers are not just words. They are planning something." Caliph's expression hardened. "I have sensed it too. Some among the council believe that the bond should be broken. They say it weakens our people and threatens our traditions. They do not understand what they have witnessed in the training grounds." Elias nodded. "Then we must show them the bond's strength. Not with words, but with action. They will see what we can accomplish together." Their opportunity came sooner than expected. During a mid-morning council meeting, an elder noble stormed in, his voice raised and filled with fury. "This human's bond is a disgrace. Our daughters are not pawns for outsiders. The traditions of Sarath will be trampled if this continues." Other nobles murmured in agreement, some nodding while others shifted uncomfortably. The room was tense. Elias stood quietly, sensing the emotions of the daughters through the bond. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt pressed at him, but he refused to falter. Caliph stepped forward, her posture regal and commanding. "You speak of disgrace, yet you ignore what we have achieved. The bond has made us stronger. We move with coordination you have never seen. We anticipate and protect each other. This human has not diminished us. He has shown us what unity can do," the elder noble sneered. "Unity is not enough. The bond with a human is unnatural. It is dangerous. You risk everything for the whims of an outsider." Elias finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I am not here to replace your traditions. I am here to honor them. The bond is not about ownership or control. It is about protection, guidance, and shared strength. If the court doubts the power of this bond, then I will prove it through action, not words." The hall fell silent. No one challenged him further, but Elias knew the opposition was far from defeated. The whispers of rebellion were now louder, carried by nobles who believed that the bond threatened their influence and the stability of the court. After the council meeting, Elias and the daughters returned to the training grounds. Caliph addressed him with a serious expression. "The court may not see it yet, but the bond is already being tested. Some among our people will act to break it. We must be ready. The next challenge is not drills or exercises. It is the threat from within our own walls." Elias studied the daughters. "Then we prepare. We train, we plan, and we watch. If rebellion rises, we face it together. The bond gives us more than connection. It gives us awareness and trust. We must use it wisely." The days that followed were a delicate balance of training and diplomacy. Elias taught the daughters human combat strategies, emphasizing teamwork, communication, and foresight. Through the bond, he sensed their fears and hesitations. He guided them with patience, helping them understand that strength was not only in muscle or skill, but in unity and trust. At the same time, the daughters taught him about Sarathi customs, strategy, and insight. Their culture valued honor above all else, and Elias realized that the bond allowed him to anticipate not only movements but intentions. He learned to read subtle shifts in posture, changes in tone, and silent signals that spoke volumes in Sarathi society. One evening, Caliph approached Elias with urgency. "I have heard whispers in the palace corridors. A faction of nobles plans to challenge the bond. They claim that the prophecy foretold an outsider who would guide us, but they fear it. They call you the herald of change and want to see the bond fail before it strengthens." Elias frowned. "Then we must act before they do. If they move in secret, we could be caught unprepared. I will not allow our people to be divided when unity is our greatest weapon." Caliph nodded. "We will need a plan. The daughters and I will help you. We can use the bond to sense their intentions and anticipate their moves. But you must lead. The council may not trust you, but they cannot ignore your actions. Over the next few days, Elias and the daughters observed the nobles closely. Through the bond, they noticed subtle signs of plotting. Hushed conversations in corners, quick exchanges of glances, and secret messages carried by attendants. The daughters learned to communicate silently with Elias, sending warnings and updates through the bond without speaking. The first test came unexpectedly. During a banquet in the palace, a group of nobles attempted to corner one of the younger daughters, intending to intimidate her into rejecting the bond. Elias sensed the threat immediately. The daughter's fear pulsed through the bond, sharp and urgent. He rose from his seat and moved quickly, positioning himself between the nobles and the daughter. "Leave her," he said firmly, his voice carrying authority that surprised even the Scifi. The nobles hesitated, unsure of how to respond to a human asserting control in a royal court. The daughters flanked him, their movements graceful and precise. Through the bond, Elias guided them, coordinating their positions and signals without words. The nobles realized that the human and the daughters were not acting alone. The bond had created a unity that could not be broken easily. The nobles withdrew, their anger masked by polite words, but Elias knew this was only a temporary victory. The opposition was still there, planning their next move. That night, Elias and Caliph spoke privately. "They will not stop," she said. "The court is divided. Some fear change more than they fear failure. If we are to protect the bond, we must be ready for anything." Elias nodded. "Then we continue training. We strengthen the bond not only for protection but for unity. If rebellion comes, we will face it together. The daughters and I are connected. That is our strength." Through the bond, Elias could feel the resolve of the daughters. Their loyalty was growing, their trust in him deepening. It was more than leadership. It was partnership, a mutual understanding that crossed the boundaries of species and culture. He realized that the human spirit, the courage to act with honor and compassion, had earned their respect. That was the essence of HFY, the ability to rise above challenges, not through power alone, but through connection, empathy, and determination. The following week brought more tests. Spies and agitators attempted to sow confusion, but Elias and the daughters anticipated every move. They moved as one, covering each other, sending warnings and diffusing tension before it escalated. The bond, once fragile and strange, had grown strong and reliable. By the end of the week, even some skeptical nobles began to acknowledge the human's role. They could not deny the effectiveness of the bond, the unity it created, or the skill of the daughters under Elias's guidance. Rumors of rebellion persisted, but the whispers were now tinged with caution. Everyone knew that the human soldier and the bonded daughters were a force that could not be ignored. Caliph stood beside Elias on the balcony of the palace, overlooking the city. "You have done well, human. The bond is stronger than I imagined it could be. You have not only guided us, but you have protected us, and that is why we trust you." Elias looked at the glowing city below. "We have done this together. The bond is not mine alone. It belongs to all of us. If the court is to survive and our people are to thrive, we must stand united." "That is the lesson I have learned," Caliph nodded. "And yet the true test is not behind us. The whispers of rebellion grow louder. Soon we will face those who wish to destroy what we have built. They will challenge the bond and try to divide us. We must be ready, Captain, because the storm is coming." Elias clenched his fists and looked at the horizon. The human soldier who had once only fought battles with guns and strategy now faced a war of loyalty, trust, and courage. The bond had given him allies, insight, and strength beyond his imagination. But the rebellion would not wait. The next challenge was approaching, and Elias knew that the bond would be tested in ways they had never imagined. Through the bond, he felt the daughters' determination. Each pulse, each thought, each emotion spoke clearly. "We will face this together," they said without words. Elias nodded, feeling the weight and the power of their unity. The trials of trust had prepared them, but the real battle was yet to begin. The whispers of rebellion were only the beginning of a storm that would sweep through the Sarathi court. The palace of Sarath Prime was quieter than usual that morning. Captain Elias Ward sensed it immediately through the bond. The daughter's thoughts were sharp and alert, pulsing with unease. Something was coming, and it was not a small disturbance. The whispers of rebellion that had haunted the court were no longer rumors. They were moving into action. Kalith joined Elias in the strategy room. Her face was calm, but Elias could feel the tension in her mind. "The rebels have chosen their moment," she said. "They seek to challenge the bond directly. If they succeed, the daughters will be vulnerable and the court could fall into chaos." Elias nodded. "Then we prepare. The bond has given us awareness and strength. We can anticipate their moves and protect each other. We face them together as one." The daughters gathered around, their expressions resolute. Each of them had grown in confidence since the first trials. Through the bond, Elias could feel their courage. Their thoughts were clear. They would fight, but they would follow his guidance. That unity was their greatest weapon. The first sign of attack came at midday. Alarms rang throughout the palace as a group of rebel nobles and their hired mercenaries stormed the gates. Their weapons were advanced, designed to bypass traditional defenses. Yet Elias and the daughters were ready. "Move to defensive positions," Elias commanded. "The bond allows us to anticipate their tactics. Trust each other and act as one." The daughters spread out with precision, moving through corridors and chambers with fluid grace. Elias led them, predicting where attacks would come and signaling through subtle gestures and thoughts carried by the bond. When a group of mercenaries reached the grand hall, Elias intercepted them. His human reflexes and combat training were enhanced by the bond. He could feel the daughter's awareness, allowing him to act as if they were extensions of his own senses. Kalith engaged a squad that tried to flank them. Elias anticipated her movements before she struck, guiding her with subtle pressure through the bond. Another daughter blocked a corridor, using her agility to prevent reinforcements from reaching the main hall. Each move was coordinated perfectly, as if the bond made them a single entity. The rebels were skilled, but they were unprepared for such unity. Every attempt to divide the group was met with a counter. Elias noticed a warlord among the rebels who was coordinating the attack. He could feel the daughter closest to him tense through the bond as the warlord advanced toward the throne room. "Focus on the warlord," Elias instructed. "We must prevent him from reaching the daughters. The rest of you protect the palace and maintain the perimeter." The daughters moved with precision, intercepting threats and covering each other. Elias led the charge, moving faster than any human normally could. The bond heightened his reflexes, his awareness, and his strength. He blocked a heavy blow aimed at Kalith, countered another that threatened the younger daughters, and coordinated movements like a conductor leading an orchestra. The rebel warlord finally reached the central chamber. Elias faced him directly. The warlord was tall, heavily armored, and skilled, but Elias had learned to rely on more than strength. Through the bond, he sensed hesitation in the warlord's mind. He predicted the first strike and countered with perfect timing. The battle intensified. The daughters fought alongside Elias, their movements synchronized. They had learned from him, but now they relied on instincts and unity. One of the younger daughters used a combination of speed and agility to disarm an attacker. Another created a diversion, allowing Elias to close in on the warlord. The palace walls shook as the rebels attempted to breach multiple points at once. Elias coordinated the daughters, guiding them through the chaos. Through the bond, he felt their confidence grow with each successful maneuver. They were no longer students. They were warriors fighting alongside him as equals. Finally, Elias faced the warlord in the grand hall. Their combat was intense, a mixture of strategy, strength, and skill. The warlord underestimated the human soldier, assuming he relied on brute force alone. Elias used the bond to anticipate every move, seeing flashes of the warlord's intentions before they became attacks. With a well-timed maneuver, Elias disarmed him and forced him to surrender. The remaining rebels were quickly subdued by the daughters and palace guards. Elias could feel the bond pulsing with relief and pride. The daughters' thoughts were clear. They had faced danger and survived together. The unity they shared was stronger than any rebellion. Kalith approached Elias, her expression one of deep respect. "You have led us through the trial, Captain. The bond has proven itself in battle. The court has witnessed what we can achieve together. No one can deny the strength of this connection." Elias lowered his head slightly. "We fought together. The bond is not mine alone. It belongs to all of us. That is what made us strong. We protected each other, and we will continue to do so." The court convened immediately after the battle. Nobles who had opposed the bond now spoke with caution. They could not ignore the effectiveness of Elias and the daughters. Even the skeptics had to acknowledge the unity and courage displayed during the attack. The bond was no longer a curiosity or threat. It was a force that could shape the future of Serath Prime. However, Elias knew the victory was only temporary. The rebellion had been just one faction. Others might rise in secret, seeking to challenge the bond again. He could feel it in the daughter's thoughts as well. Their trust and courage were strong, but vigilance was required to maintain the peace. Caliph spoke privately with Elias as they walked through the restored halls. The battle has strengthened the bond, but the court is still divided. Some fear change, others fear the bond's power. We must continue to demonstrate that unity and trust are greater than fear. Elias nodded. We will. Today was a test, but it is only one of many. The bond will grow stronger as we face challenges together. That is how we protect the court and our people. We cannot stop now. The daughters gathered in the training grounds once more. They practiced maneuvers, strategies, and coordination. But this time the focus was on reinforcing the bond and preparing for any future threats. Each exercise pushed them further, and Elias guided them through every move, refining their skills and strengthening their unity. Through the bond, Elias sensed their growth. Fear had been replaced by confidence. Doubt had been replaced by trust. Hesitation had been replaced by awareness. Together they were no longer individuals. They were a team, connected by the sacred bond and strengthened by experience. At sunset, Elias stood with Caliph and the daughters on the palace balcony. The city below glowed with the lights of a world that had witnessed unity in the face of danger. We have won today, Elias said quietly. But the bond is not a shield that will last on its own. We must remain vigilant, continue to train, and act with wisdom. Our strength comes from each other, and we must never forget that. Caliph looked at him with admiration. You have done more than guide us. You have inspired us. The bond is no longer just tradition. It is a force that can shape the future. We will stand together, human and Sarathi, against any threat. Elias felt the bond pulse with agreement. Each daughter shared the same determination and resolve. He understood that this unity was not only a symbol of strength, but also a reflection of human resilience. Humans could rise to challenges, inspire trust, and create connections that crossed worlds. That was the essence of their power, and now it was evident to the Sarathi. As night fell over Serath Prime, Elias remained on the balcony, gazing at the stars above. The war had tested them, but the bond had proven stronger than anyone could have imagined. The daughters were safe, the court had witnessed their unity, and the rebellion had been halted. Yet Elias knew that challenges were never truly over. Through the bond, he felt the daughters' thoughts. Each one carried hope, courage, and determination. Together they were ready for whatever trials awaited. And Elias, the human soldier from Earth, understood that the bond had not only changed them, but had changed him. He was no longer just a protector. He was a leader, a partner, and a symbol of the strength that could arise when trust, unity, and courage guided every action. The war of bonds had begun, but it had also revealed the power of connection and the true potential of humans standing among the stars. Elias smiled, knowing that whatever storms were ahead, they would face them together, united by trust, guided by courage, and strengthened by the bond. The sun rose over Serath Prime, painting the palace towers in shades of gold and amber. Captain Elias Ward stood on the balcony, the weight of the bond heavy upon him. The war of rebellion had tested their strength, but today promised the ultimate challenge. Rumors of a final plot reached his ears, whispered by those who refused to accept the bond's power. Caliph joined him quietly. Her expression was serious, but her eyes shone with determination. Elias, the last faction has moved. They have gathered forces beyond the city. Their goal is simple. They wish to capture the daughters and break the bond completely. If they succeed, chaos will consume the court. Elias clenched his fists. Then we stop them. The bond has given us awareness, trust, and strength. We will not allow fear to control our people. We face them together, as one. The daughters gathered in the strategy room. Their expressions were focused. Each of them had grown stronger through training, battle, and the shared bond. Through the bond, Elias could sense their confidence tempered with caution. They were ready, but he knew the coming conflict would demand everything they had learned. Listen carefully, Elias said. We face a large force today. They believe they can divide us. But they underestimate the bond. We will move as one. We will anticipate, communicate, and protect each other. Every step, every move, every thought matters. Trust in the bond and in each other. The daughters nodded, their resolve clear. Caliph stepped forward. The bond has proven its power before. Today we show the court and the people of Serath Prime that it cannot be broken. We fight for our future and for the unity of all our people. As they prepared, scouts reported the advancing enemy. Elias observed the formations. The rebels had brought mercenaries and advanced weapons. They aimed to strike quickly and create confusion. Elias studied their movements, anticipating their strategy. Through the bond, he coordinated the daughters silently. Each pulse carried instruction, warning, or encouragement. When the rebels reached the city gates, Elias led the daughters into position. They moved with precision, cutting off flanking routes and securing strategic points. The bond allowed them to anticipate the enemy's moves, covering each other before attacks could land. The first wave of the assault hit the outer walls. The daughters engaged with grace and strength. Elias intercepted a heavily armed mercenary heading toward Caliph. Through the bond, he guided her movements, and together they neutralized the threat. Another daughter used speed and agility to disarm opponents attempting to breach the palace gates. The rebels tried to divide the group, sending a strike team toward the daughters. Elias anticipated the maneuver. He positioned himself strategically, using the daughters' coordinated skills to block the attackers. The bond pulsed with focus and determination. Every movement was precise, every strike calculated. Despite their skill, the enemy was relentless. A warlord led the central assault, a tall and heavily armored figure with experience in siege tactics. Elias met him directly. The warlord attacked with strength and strategy, but Elias relied on more than combat skill. Through the bond, he sensed hesitation and intention. Every strike he blocked, every counter he executed was guided by the shared awareness of the daughters and the bond itself. The battle raged through the palace. The daughters moved seamlessly with Elias, anticipating attacks, covering each other, and striking with efficiency. The palace guards, inspired by their unity, joined the fight with renewed courage. The rebellion's morale began to falter. They had underestimated the human and the bonded daughters, assuming that fear or pride could break them apart. Elias pressed forward, focusing on the warlord. Each attack was met with a precise counter. He blocked strikes aimed at the daughters, redirected the warlord's momentum, and guided the younger daughters to intercept other threats. Through the bond, he shared instructions, support, and reassurance. The daughters responded instinctively, their coordination flawless. Finally, Elias found an opening. Using the bond to anticipate the warlord's final move, he disarmed him and forced him to the ground. The remaining rebels, seeing their leader defeated, surrendered or fled. The battle ended. The palace and the daughters were safe. The bond had proven stronger than any force sent to destroy it. The court convened immediately after the conflict. The nobles who had doubted the bond now spoke in cautious admiration. Even those who had opposed Elias's presence could not deny the effectiveness of the unity displayed by the human and the daughters. The court had witnessed something extraordinary. The bond was no longer just a tradition. It was a symbol of strength, trust, and unity that could shape the future of Serath Prime. Caliph approached Elias privately. The court has seen our power, but more importantly, they have seen our trust. You have guided us, human, and the bond has held. We are ready to face whatever comes next. The rebellion is over, but our responsibility remains. Elias nodded. I understand. The bond is not just protection. It is connection, awareness, and partnership. We have proven ourselves, but we must continue to nurture this unity. That is the true lesson. Strength alone does not endure. Trust does. Later that evening, the daughters gathered with Elias on the palace balcony. The city below shimmered with lights, reflecting the peaceful night after the storm of battle. The bond pulsed gently, a rhythm of shared relief, pride, and determination. Caliph spoke, her voice filled with respect. Captain Elias Ward, today you have not only led us but inspired us. The bond has changed the way we see ourselves and each other. You have earned the trust of the court and the daughters alike. The bond is stronger than anyone could have imagined. Elias looked at the daughters. Each one had grown through trials, training, and combat. He could feel their thoughts clearly, their courage, their loyalty, and their hope for the future. The bond has not made me a leader alone, he said. It has made all of us stronger together. Each of you has given me trust, courage, and unity. That is why we succeeded. We protect each other, and that is why the bond endures. Caliph smiled. Then the oath must be spoken. It is not only a promise but a declaration to the court and the people. Will you speak it, human? Elias took a deep breath and stepped forward. His voice was steady and filled with conviction. I swear to protect, guide, and stand with the bonded daughters of Sereth Prime. I will honor their trust, respect their strength, and face any challenge alongside them. I swear that the bond we share will never break, and that our unity will endure as long as we live. The daughters joined him, their voices clear and strong. We swear to stand with him. We trust in the bond. We trust in each other. Together we are stronger than any threat, and together we will protect the court and our people. Through the bond, Elias felt the pulse of their collective will, a rhythm that echoed through the palace, through the city, and beyond. It was a force stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than any rebellion. The oath had been spoken, and it bound them together as one. The court witnessed the oath in awe. Even the nobles who had opposed the bond could not ignore the unity, courage, and determination of Elias and the daughters. The human soldier had proven that he was worthy not by rank or title, but by courage, honor, and the ability to inspire trust. Caliph turned to Elias, her eyes reflecting pride and gratitude. The bond is secure. The court sees what we have become. You have shown us that strength is more than power. It is trust, unity, and courage. Humanity has earned its place among us not by dominance but by honor. Elias nodded, feeling the weight of the bond and the responsibility it carried. The journey had been long, filled with challenges, fear, and uncertainty, but it had also been a testament to the human spirit. They had faced trials, rebellion, and danger, and emerged stronger, united, and resolute. That night, as stars lit the sky above Sereth Prime, Elias stood with the daughters on the palace balcony. The bond pulsed gently, a reminder of shared strength, trust, and connection. He realized that the bond had not only changed the daughters and the court, but it had changed him. Humans had proven that courage, honor, and empathy could forge connections across worlds, and that unity could overcome the greatest challenges. The war was over, the rebellion defeated, and the bond stronger than ever. Elias understood that their journey was not finished, but they had created something extraordinary, a force of trust, courage, and unity that would endure. The human soldier had taken an oath, and he had kept it. Together with the daughters of Sereth Prime, he had faced the impossible, inspired loyalty, and reshaped the future of an alien world. The bond was complete, and it was a testament to the power of humans standing among the stars, united not by fear but by trust, honor, and courage. Sereth Prime was safe, and the bond had become a symbol of hope and strength for all. Elias smiled as he felt the gentle pulse of the daughters' thoughts through the bond. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, stronger than any challenge, guided by trust and empowered by courage.